You know that moment when everyone around you is recording something, and one person is just standing there, actually living it? A concert, a sunset, a birthday dinner, a random beautiful sky after a long day. Everyone else pulls out their phones almost automatically. But that one person does not. They do not open the camera. They do not think about captions. They do not wonder who will react to the story. They just look. And for some reason, that makes people uncomfortable. Because in today's world, not posting almost feels suspicious. If you go somewhere and do not share it, people ask, did it even happen? If you are not on Instagram, they ask, how do people find you? If you do not use TikTok, they look at you like you are refusing to participate in modern life. But maybe the person who does not use social media is not behind. Maybe they are protecting something most people have slowly given away. Their attention, their privacy, their sense of self, and their ability to experience life without turning it into a performance. Here is what makes this so interesting psychologically. Social media is not just entertainment. It is a system built around human needs. The need to be seen. The need to be approved. The need to belong. The need to compare. The need to feel that your life matters because other people noticed it. And that is why most people do not just use social media. They check it. They refresh it. They return to it without thinking. They open the app for no clear reason, scroll for a few minutes, close it, and then open it again almost immediately. Not because they truly wanted to, but because the brain learned the loop. Post, wait, check, react, compare, repeat. A like becomes a tiny signal that says, you are visible. A comment becomes proof that someone noticed. A share becomes confirmation that your thought mattered. And slowly, without realizing it, your nervous system begins to connect attention with worth. This is where people who do not use social media become fascinating. They are not necessarily antisocial. They are not necessarily boring. They are not always trying to make a statement. Some of them simply do not feel the need to convert their lives into public evidence. They can go to a restaurant and enjoy the meal without photographing it. They can travel somewhere beautiful and keep the memory private. They can feel something deeply without turning it into a post. They can have an opinion without needing strangers to validate it. And in a world where almost everyone is performing some version of themselves, that kind of privacy becomes unusual. Maybe even radical. Because social media does something subtle. It trains you to see your own life from the outside. You are no longer just experiencing the moment. You are imagining how the moment will look to other people. Is this picture good enough? Will this make me look interesting? Will this sound intelligent? Will people think I am successful, attractive, funny, deep, happy, confident, desirable? And once that mental camera turns on, it does not stay inside the app. It follows you into real life. You start editing moments before they are even over. You start measuring your life by how shareable it is. You start feeling like an experience has more value when other people can see it. That is the psychological trap. The moment stops being enough on its own. It needs an audience. But people who do not use social media often live outside that audience effect. Their vacation does not need proof. Their relationship does not need public approval. Their happiness does not need to be displayed. Their grief does not need to be turned into a beautiful caption. Their body does not need to be compared to hundreds of strangers every morning. They are not constantly being pulled into the invisible courtroom of public opinion. And that can create a very different internal life. More quiet, more private, more grounded. But let's be honest about something. Not everyone avoids social media for healthy reasons. Some people stay away because they feel secure. Others stay away because they are afraid. There is a difference between privacy and hiding. Privacy says, my life belongs to me. Hiding says, if people see me, they might reject me. Privacy feels peaceful. Hiding feels tense. Privacy gives you control. Hiding makes you feel invisible. And this difference matters because from the outside, both people may look the same. Both may avoid posting. Both may have no public profile. Both may seem detached from online culture. But internally, they are living two very different realities. One person has chosen not to perform. The other is afraid of being judged. One is free from the game. The other still feels controlled by it, even while standing outside of it. So the deeper question is not just, do you use social media? The deeper question is, why? Are you avoiding it because it does not serve your mind? Or because you are terrified of being seen? Are you private because you value depth? Or because you believe your real self would not be accepted? This is where psychology becomes more honest. Because social media does not create insecurity from nothing. It often amplifies what was already there. If someone already feels inadequate, social media gives them endless people to compare themselves to. If someone already fears being ignored, social media gives them numbers that seem to measure their value. If someone already feels behind in life, social media gives them a daily highlight reel of everyone else appearing ahead. And the cruel part is that the comparison is never fair. You compare your ordinary morning to someone's edited vacation. Your tired face to someone's best angle. Your private doubts to someone's confident announcement. Your messy process to someone's polished result. And your brain does not always stop to say, this is curated. It simply feels the gap. That gap becomes envy, then pressure, then dissatisfaction, then the quiet belief that your life is not enough. People who step away from social media often begin to notice something strange. Their life did not suddenly become perfect, but it became less noisy. They still have problems. They still feel lonely sometimes. They still have insecurities. But they are no longer feeding those insecurities with 1,000 comparisons a day. They are no longer waking up and immediately letting other people's lives enter their mind before they have even understood their own mood. They are no longer giving the first moments of their day to strangers, algorithms, trends, outrage, beauty standards, opinions, and images designed to keep them engaged. And that alone can change a person. Because your attention is not a small thing. Your attention is the doorway to your emotions. What you repeatedly look at, you begin to measure yourself against. What you repeatedly consume, you begin to normalize. What you repeatedly envy, you begin to chase. And what you repeatedly chase, you may eventually mistake for your own desire. That is one of the most powerful things about people who do not use social media. They often have fewer borrowed desires. They are less likely to want something only because everyone else is displaying it. They are less likely to shape their identity around trends. They are less likely to confuse visibility with meaning. They have more space to ask, do I actually want this? Not, will this make me look impressive? Not, will this prove something? Not, will people react? But, does this matter to me when no one is watching? That question can be uncomfortable, because many people do not know who they are without an audience. They know what version of themselves performs well. They know which photos get attention. They know which opinions get engagement. They know which parts of their personality are rewarded online. But remove the audience, and suddenly there is silence. And in that silence, a person has to face something deeper. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I enjoy when I am not trying to look interesting? What do I believe when I am not trying to sound impressive? What kind of life would I build if I could not post any of it? People who do not use social media are often forced into that question earlier. And sometimes, that makes them more internally defined. Not because they are better, but because they have fewer mirrors telling them who to become. If this is already making you think differently about your own relationship with social media, subscribe to Mind Motive Theory, leave a like, and share this video with someone who has always felt different for not wanting to live online. Because in the next part, we are going deeper into the hidden freedom of not being constantly watched, and why people who do not use social media may understand something about identity that the rest of the world is slowly forgetting. And this is where the freedom becomes deeper than most people realize. Because not using social media is not only about avoiding apps. It is about living without the constant feeling of being watched. That may sound simple, but psychologically, it changes a lot. When you know that every moment could become content, you start living with an invisible audience in your mind. You do not just choose an outfit. You imagine how it might look in a photo. You do not just visit a place. You imagine how it might look on your profile. You do not just feel happy. You wonder if the happiness looks convincing enough to share. And slowly, without noticing, life becomes less about experience and more about presentation. But people who do not use social media often escape that mental pressure. They do not have to turn every feeling into a caption. They do not have to turn every achievement into an announcement. They do not have to prove they are healing, growing, glowing, traveling, succeeding, loving, becoming, or moving on. They can simply live. And in a world where almost everything is being documented, that kind of simplicity can feel almost rebellious. Because social media has trained people to confuse privacy with failure. If you do not post your relationship, people assume something is wrong. If you do not post your success, people assume you have none. If you do not show your lifestyle, people assume your life is boring. If you do not share your opinions, people assume you do not have thoughts. But people who do not use social media often understand something powerful. A life does not become real because other people can see it. A relationship does not become meaningful because strangers approve of it. A memory does not become valuable because it was uploaded. A person does not become important because they are visible. This is one of the biggest psychological shifts. When you stop performing your life, you start feeling your life again. You notice the taste of the food before thinking about the photo. You hear the conversation without wondering if it would make a good story. You enjoy a beautiful place without turning your body into part of the scenery for other people to judge. You begin to experience moments from the inside, not from the imagined perspective of an audience. And that changes memory. Because some people do not remember moments clearly anymore. They remember how they framed them, how they looked, how others reacted, how many people viewed it, how many liked it, how many ignored it. The memory becomes attached to public response. But when there is no post, no story, no audience, the moment belongs entirely to you. No numbers, no performance, no comparison, just experience. And for some people, that is exactly why they stay away. They are not trying to reject the modern world. They are trying to protect the private world inside them. Because privacy is not emptiness. Privacy is where identity can grow without being interrupted. It is where you can change your mind without being watched. It is where you can become someone new without having to explain every stage of the process. It is where you can fail quietly, learn quietly, heal quietly, and rebuild quietly. Social media often pressures people to make every transformation visible. You have to announce the new version of yourself. Show the progress. Post the lesson. Turn the pain into a message. Turn the healing into an aesthetic. But real growth is often too messy for an audience. Some changes are not beautiful while they are happening. Some seasons are not meant to be turned into content. Some parts of you need silence, not exposure. People who do not use social media may understand this instinctively. They may know that not everything sacred has to be shared. Not every joy needs witnesses. Not every pain needs viewers. Not every personal breakthrough needs applause. And that is where they often develop a stronger sense of internal validation. They are less dependent on people clapping for something to feel meaningful. They can finish a book, learn a skill, take a walk, change a habit, make a decision, or survive a hard season without needing to announce it. Their life has value even when it is not being observed. And that may be one of the rarest forms of psychological freedom today. Because social media does not only make people seek attention, it makes them afraid of being forgotten. That is the deeper fear. Not just, do people like me? But, do people still remember I exist? So people keep posting. Not always because they want to. Sometimes because disappearing feels dangerous. If you stop posting, will people stop caring? If you stop sharing, will people stop checking on you? If you stop being visible, will you still matter? That is a heavy thing for the mind to carry. And people who do not use social media have either never entered that loop, or they found a way to step outside of it. They are not constantly feeding the machine with proof of existence. They are not trying to remind the world that they are still interesting. They are not living under the pressure to remain relevant. And because of that, their sense of self may become less reactive. They are not reinventing themselves every time a trend changes. They are not adjusting their personality for engagement. They are not measuring their attractiveness, intelligence, humor, or success through public feedback. They may still struggle with insecurity, of course. They are human. But they are not placing their insecurity in front of an algorithm every day and asking it to decide how valuable they are. That matters. Because algorithms do not care about your mental peace. They care about attention. They do not show you what will make you whole. They show you what will keep you watching. Outrage keeps you watching. Comparison keeps you watching. Desire keeps you watching. Insecurity keeps you watching. Curiosity keeps you watching. Even sadness can keep you watching. And the more emotionally activated you are, the longer you stay. People who do not use social media have removed themselves from that constant emotional manipulation. Not perfectly, not completely from all modern influence, but from one of the strongest systems designed to capture human attention. And that gives them something many people are losing. Mental quiet. The ability to be bored without immediately escaping. The ability to think without being interrupted. The ability to sit with an emotion without instantly numbing it with scrolling. The ability to have a private thought that does not need to become a public statement. This is more important than it sounds. Because boredom is not always bad. Boredom is where creativity often begins. Silence is where self-awareness starts to speak. Stillness is where you finally hear what you actually feel. But social media fills every empty space. Waiting in line. Sitting in the car. Lying in bed. Eating alone. Feeling awkward. Feeling sad. Feeling unsure. The moment discomfort appears, the hand reaches for the phone. And the mind never has to sit with itself. People who do not use social media often have a different relationship with emptiness. They may be more comfortable with their own thoughts. More able to reflect. More able to notice what is happening inside them. Not because they are naturally superior, but because they have not trained their brain to escape every quiet moment. And this is where the misunderstood part comes in. People may call them disconnected, but they may actually be more connected to their immediate life. People may call them boring, but they may have a richer inner world. People may call them antisocial, but they may prefer fewer relationships with more depth. People may call them outdated, but they may simply refuse to let technology define what a meaningful life looks like. Of course, social media is not evil by itself. It can connect people. It can spread ideas. It can build communities. It can help creators, businesses, artists, and lonely people find others like them. The problem begins when the tool becomes the mirror. When you no longer use it. You consult it. You ask it who you are. You ask it if you are attractive. You ask it if your life is impressive. You ask it if your opinion matters. You ask it if your happiness counts. And people who do not use social media, whether consciously or not, have refused to let that mirror become their identity. That is why they can seem strange in a culture obsessed with visibility. They are not trying to prove every experience. They are not trying to be seen by everyone. They are not turning themselves into a personal brand. They are not constantly asking, "How does this look?" They are asking something quieter. How does this feel? Does this matter? Is this real? Would I still choose this if no one ever knew? And that last question may reveal more about a person than any profile ever could. Because who you are when nobody is watching is closer to the truth than the version you create when everyone might be. So if you are someone who does not use social media, or you feel yourself slowly pulling away from it, maybe you are not missing out as much as people think. Maybe you are noticing the cost. Maybe you are tired of being turned into data. Maybe you are tired of comparing your life to edited fragments. Maybe you are tired of performing happiness instead of protecting peace. Maybe some part of you still remembers that life was never meant to be lived for an audience. And if that is you, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not invisible because you are offline. You are not irrelevant because you are private. You are not behind because you are not constantly posting. You may simply be choosing presence in a world addicted to performance. You may be choosing depth in a culture addicted to display. You may be choosing peace in an economy built on distraction. And maybe that is what people who do not use social media understand better than anyone. Your life does not have to be witnessed by everyone to be meaningful. Your joy does not need public proof. Your growth does not need an announcement. Your identity does not need an algorithm. Your attention belongs to you. And once you take it back, you begin to realize how much of yourself you had been giving away. So the next time someone says, "You are not on social media," you do not need to over-explain. You do not need to defend your choice. You can simply know that maybe, in a world where everyone is trying to be seen, choosing to truly live might be the most radical thing left. If this video made you think differently, subscribe to Mind Motive Theory, leave a like, and share it with someone who has stepped away from social media or someone who secretly wants to. Because sometimes the people who post the least are not missing life. They are finally experiencing it without interruption.